The Galactic Combat Academy's training floor fell silent as Instructor Vex 9, a towering Centaurian with 4 arms and scales that shimmered like oil, surveyed the mixed-species class of cadets. His compound eyes fixed on the 2 humans standing among the group of 30 alien warriors in training. "Today's exercise will test your natural combat abilities," Vex 9 announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had survived the siege of Kepler Prime. No technological augmentations, no psychic abilities, no energy manipulation, pure unenhanced combat only. Jack Martinez, a stocky human with calloused hands and kind eyes, nodded along with the others. Beside him, Daisy Chen stood quietly, her slight frame making her appear almost fragile among the hulking Garaxians and armored Catherian warriors. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she kept her hands clasped behind her back in a way that made her look like she was trying to disappear. "You will face the Simulation Chamber's Level 7 combat scenario," Vex 9 continued. "Survival for 10 minutes earns you a passing grade. Most of you won't last 3. The first cadet, a massive Garaxian named Throck whose biceps were thicker than Jack's torso, entered the chamber with confidence. Through the observation windows, the class watched as holographic enemies materialized around him. Throck's natural strength and thick hide served him well, but after 7 minutes of brutal combat, he was overwhelmed and ejected from the simulation. One by one, the cadets faced the challenge. The results followed a predictable pattern. The larger, more naturally aggressive species lasted longer, while the smaller, more intelligent ones relied on cunning, but eventually succumbed to the relentless assault. A few made it past the 10-minute mark, earning grudging approval from Vex 9. Jack went 15th. He had no natural armor, no claws, no enhanced strength that could match his classmates. What he had was determination and the kind of tactical thinking that came from growing up in the rough neighborhoods of New Detroit. He dodged, weaved, and used the environment to his advantage, lasting exactly 11 minutes and 14 seconds before the simulation tagged him out. "Acceptable for a human," Vex 9 noted with something that might have been approval. Finally, only Daisy remained. "Cadet Chen," Vex 9's voice carried a note of dismissive expectation. "Are you certain you wish to attempt this? Perhaps you could benefit from additional conditioning first?" Daisy stepped forward, her movements quiet and precise. "I'd like to try, sir." She entered the chamber and the massive door sealed behind her. Through the reinforced transparasteel, the class watched as the simulation began. 50 holographic enemies materialized in the circular arena, their forms shifting between different alien combat types the Academy used for training. What happened next would be talked about in Academy halls for decades. Daisy moved like water-given form. Her first opponent, a simulated Vorthon blade dancer, lunged with superhuman speed. Daisy stepped aside so smoothly it seemed choreographed, her hand shooting out to strike 3 pressure points in sequence. The hologram collapsed, its neural pathways disrupted. More enemies converged on her position. A pack of cyberwolves bounded forward, their mechanical jaws snapping. Daisy dropped low, sweeping one off its feet while simultaneously striking upward to disable another. She rolled between the remaining 2, her movement so fluid it was like watching a deadly dance. The watching cadets pressed against the observation windows. Jack found himself holding his breath as Daisy moved through the simulation like she was born to it. Every strike was precise, every dodge perfectly timed. She wasn't just surviving. She was dismantling the challenge with surgical precision. Armored combat drones descended from above, their energy weapons charging. Daisy looked up, calculated angles and velocities in the space between heartbeats, then moved. She used the fallen cyberwolves as stepping stones, leaping impossibly high to reach the first drone. Her fingers found the exact spot where its armor plating joined, and with a precise twist, she tore out its central processor. She ricocheted off the disabled drone to reach the second, then the third. Moving through the air like gravity was merely a suggestion she chose to follow. 10 minutes passed. The simulation didn't end. 15 minutes. Daisy stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by the scattered remains of what had been an overwhelming force. She wasn't even breathing hard. 20 minutes. New waves of enemies continued to spawn, and Daisy continued to dismantle them with the same impossible efficiency. Instructor Vex 9 manually ended the simulation. The chamber door opened, and Daisy walked out, straightening her uniform jacket. She looked around at the stunned faces of her classmates and noticed their expressions. Was that Was that not good enough? She asked quietly, genuine concern in her voice. Vex Nine's forearms were rigid at his sides. In his 300 years of combat experience spanning dozens of worlds and conflicts, he had never seen anything like what he'd just witnessed. Cadet Chen, his voice was carefully controlled. That was extraordinary. But I specifically said no powers in combat. Daisy blinked, confusion crossing her features. I didn't use any powers, sir. That level of combat ability is impossible without enhancement or supernatural abilities. A small smile played at the corners of Daisy's mouth, the first expression beyond quiet politeness that any of her classmates had seen from her. Sir, with respect, that was me holding back. The silence that followed was profound. Jack stared at his study partner, the quiet girl who helped him with xenobiology homework and always apologized when taking the last nutrition cube from the dispenser. Holding back? Vex Nine's compound eyes narrowed. You said no powers, Daisy explained patiently. So I didn't move faster than the simulation could track. I didn't hit hard enough to damage the chamber walls. I didn't... She paused, seeming to search for the right words. I kept it human normal, sir. Or at least human possible. The other cadets exchanged glances. Throck, who had been so confident earlier, took an unconscious step backward. Human possible, Vex 9 repeated slowly. Daisy nodded earnestly. My grandmother always said that humans don't have natural armor or claws or psychic abilities because we never needed them. She said we were born with something better. She looked around at her fellow cadets, her expression gentle but somehow terrifying in its implications. We were born to be what nightmares have nightmares about. Jack would later tell people that in that moment, he finally understood why humanity had never lost a war once they'd reached the stars. It wasn't their technology or their numbers or their stubborn refusal to surrender. It was that somewhere out in the galaxy there were quiet, polite humans like Daisy Chen who considered 20 minutes of impossible combat to be holding back. Instructor Vex 9 looked at his class roster, then at the small human female, who had just redefined his understanding of what was possible. Class dismissed, he said quietly. Except you, Cadet Chen. We need to discuss your curriculum adjustments. As the other cadets filed out, Jack caught Daisy's arm. Hey, he whispered. Next time we spar for practice, I'll keep holding back, she promised with that same gentle smile. Jack nodded gratefully and headed for the door. Behind him, he heard Vex 9 asking Daisy exactly what would happen if she didn't hold back. Her answer followed Jack down the hallway. I honestly don't know, sir. No one's ever made me find out.